Okay, for the record, this is position number 120 on today's calendar, State of Georgia versus Sharon Wallace. Ms. Wallace is charged in warrant number 2022 CW 51491 with committing the offense of aggravated assault. Ms. Wallace is here represented by Attorney Rogers. He's present in court also. And the state is being represented by Ms. Freeman. Ms. Freeman, you can swear your witness in and begin your examination.
Thank you, Judge. Officer Reed, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony you're about to provide in the matter of State of Georgia versus Sharon Wallace will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Please tell us your name and how you're employed.
Officer Reed, the Clayton County Police Department.
How long have you worked with
a case number? For 2 years.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up
for today's court date.
I'm sorry?
Do you have a case number for today's court date? I was told today's court date was for a meth possession charge, not for aggravated assault.
I just have one charge, and the warrant number is 2022 CW 51491. Charging Ms. Wallace with aggravated assault. Does anyone have anything different?
No, that's all I have.
Because I should have a female for meth possession off a traffic stop.
No, no. Sharon Wallace. Are you Officer Tyler Reed?
Yes.
What case number do you have for that meth charge?
It should be 22020230 for Crystal Rogers.
No, this is not Crystal Rogers' case. This is Sharon Wallace.
Do you have a case number so I can look up the police report? Because I don't remember who Ms. Wallace is.
2201 8031.
Thank you.
And Ms. Rogers is on to calendar, but that's going to be
we've already taken care of. Right, we've already done Rogers.
John, I would object if he's not allowed to just basically keep a script up to testify from. I'm not sure.
Are you saying to review his records? Is that what you're saying, Mr. Rogers?
That's one thing, because it's hard to know what he's referring to. For one, but
Officer Reed, right?
Yes.
Well, let me see, because he hasn't been. Let me check with him. Officer Reed, are you the correct officer on the case of Sharon Wallace?
Yes, I didn't know I had court for her today.
Okay, so prior to today, were you contacted by my office and given today's date as well as instructions on reviewing your report?
I was given the case number previously for the meth charge. I don't remember if I was contacted in regards for Ms. Wallace.
Now, well, I'm going to respond directly to what Mr. Rogers was saying. Now, there's a long way and a short way. And we can do the long way where the state asked a question. He can't remember. He tries to refer to a document to help him with his recollection. Because I don't think that objection is necessarily fatal to his ability to be able to testify here today. Right. And correct me if you think I'm wrong.
I'm reading the report and I remember what happened.
Hold on, Mr. Officer Reed. I'm speaking to Mr. Rogers.
Oh, sorry.
No, sir, Jan, I understand what you're saying as far as it not being fatal. My only concern is that to the extent that he's about to just, randomly pull something up and start, if he's going to be referring to something to guide his testimony, I just want to make sure that we're very clear about what it is and what the situation is. If he's saying that he's refreshed his memory and he can testify without essentially reading a script into evidence, then that's fine.
Right, and that's fair, because Mr. Rogers needs to know whatever document that you may be referring to Officer Reed, as you're refreshing your recollection or whatever, to that extent. So I'll allow leeway in your having, if you have to refer to a document, but Mr. Rogers is correct in that you just can't read from a document. But it just makes the process go longer, and you're gonna make Ms. Freeman work harder to get the answers to the questions.
I just had to read the report to remember who Miss Wallace was. I didn't remember who she was. That's all it was.
Okay. What, and you're referring to your official report?
Yes, my police report that I wrote, which I used to go and seek warrants for arrests.
And Mr. Rogers, do you have a copy of that report?
Assuming that I think so. Let me double check. I think it's the same one that I probably seen.
Jabari, let me know if you don't have it.
Yeah, I think I've seen a report for it. So as long as it's just a police report, then
It's just my police report right here.
yeah, I think I've seen the police report for it.
Okay. So as long as we're all reading from the same sheet of music, it should be okay. But I would let Ms. Freeman, this is your witness. I'll let you conduct your examination in the manner that you deem to be appropriate.
Thank you, Judge. And I can't recall if I had asked the officer the question swearing in, but then I think at that he didn't respond. He asked about what cases was, so I'm just going to start over.
Okay.
Officer Reed, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm that the testimony provide in the matter of state of Georgia versus Sharon Wallace will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
Please tell us your name and how you report.
Officer Reed, the Clayton County Police Department.
And how long have you worked with the Clayton County Police Department?
2 years.
Were you working with the Clayton County Police Department on April 1st of 2022?
Yes.
And on that particular day, were you dispatched to 6755 Flint Place in Jonesboro, Georgia?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a house or business?
It's a private residence. It's a house.
When you arrived at that location, who did you speak with?
I spoke with her sister, Mrs. Wallace's sister.
Do you recall Ms.
Whom she resides
Wallace?
with.
I'm sorry?
I spoke with her sister, whom she resides with. Her name is Friddle, Jimmy Friddle.
Okay. And what did Ms. Friddle tell you that happened?
She advised that her sister had her boyfriend over, of whom she is not very kind of, and she asked her sister to remove her boyfriend from her residence. She advised that they got into a verbal altercation and that a verbal argument, and that upon the boyfriend leaving, Miss Wallace became in a enraged state in regards to Miss Friddle asking her to close the back door. And once they got into this even more heated verbal argument, she advised that Miss Wallace pushed her down. And upon pushing her down, when Miss Friddle was trying to get back up, she pushed her down again. And then she began to choke her in regards to prevent her from getting back up, basically. And then by the time I got there, Miss Wallace had already left the scene. And when Miss Friddle opened the door, she had red marks on her neck and she was out of breath, and advised that she had just been strangled by her sister.
Did you take photographs of the injuries?
It's on my body cam video.
Did Ms. Friddle have to get any medical treatment?
No, I asked if she wished to receive medical treatment and she refused. So I advised her if she had any more further complications to go see her primary care physician.
And how old was Ms. Friddle?
She was an elderly female. I don't know her age exactly. And she advised she had several other health complications.
Were you ever able to speak with Ms. Wallace?
No, she had given me, Miss Friddle had given me Miss Wallace's phone number. I attempted to call her. She never picked up. So due to the fact it fell under family violence, I went to go and seek warrants.
Okay. And all of this did take place in Clayton County?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, no further questions. Thank you.
Mr. Rogers?
Yes, sir. Officer, as far as you know, who all lives at that residence?
Ms. Furto only advised that it was her and her sister, Miss Wallace.
And when this incident is supposed to have occurred, it's just the two of them.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. And I know you mentioned having body camera footage of, I guess, your contact with Miss Friedel. Is that correct?
Yes.
Other than that, do you know of any other sort of video coverage of any parts of the allegations or anything relevant?
No, my body cam would capture the red marks that was on her neck.
And no, I just want to be a little bit more clear as far as besides your body cam, are you aware of any other sort of video coverage or video recording of anything?
No.
Do you have knowledge of any witnesses, anything like that?
No. She advised, Miss Furto advises only her and Miss Wallace was inside the residence when the altercation took place because Miss Wallace's boyfriend already left.
And Ms. Friedel, did she write a statement or is it just verbally told to you?
I don't remember if she had written a statement. I believe she did. I would have to go back to my body cam and see if I had her write a statement.
The conversation that we discussed that you mentioned this morning, that's recorded on body cam.
Yes.
And the what you say you saw when she opened the door, what are you saying is what you observed?
When I had knocked on the door several times, she didn't answer. And then as I was walking away, she was screaming, I'm coming, I'm coming. I'm an elderly lady. And she came to the door out of breath. And when she came to the door, she looked up and I saw she had marks on her neck consistent with strangulation as I've seen previously before. And I advised her, why are you so out of breath? And she advised, my sister just strangled me. That's why I'm out of breath. And I have multiple health complications. So it's hard for me to catch my breath right now. And that's when I asked her to take a seat. And if she needs any further medical attention, she advised no. She needs to catch her breath because she's in shock.
Okay. And let me ask you, you said there were marks consistent with strangulation.
Yes.
How do you learn what marks are consistent with strangulation?
Usually from strangulation marks, I wouldn't know how to physically explain it, but she had bright red marks as if something or someone had just squeezed her neck with hard pressure.
Right. And what I'm asking is, I want to make sure I'm being clear. What training do you have? What do you look for to identify whether or not something is a strangulation mark, as you called it?
Can you repeat that?
I said, what do you look for as far as your training or things like that? What do you look for to determine what is a strangulation mark?
Bruising around the neck consistent with someone applying strong grip, or depending on the person's skin color, if the person strangled hard enough, it will leave the person's finger marks on the side of their necks.
And just so I'm clear, is there what distinguishes it from just contact, like from a push or a shove or anything like that? How would you distinguish between the two?
Because usually when someone is pushed or shoved, depending on if they hit an object or not, if someone got pushed into a doorknob, you would have a bright red, depending on your skin tone, bright red mark on your side or your back, which is different from being strangled, especially if you're strangled by a cord versus someone using their bare hands.
And I just want to make sure I'm clear. So you're saying that you personally observed these things happen and then inspected the person afterwards, or is this conjecture?
I've never physically seen someone being strangled. I've always responded after the incident has happened. And upon their testimony and looking at their physical injuries, it will be very easy to determine if someone is lying in regards to being strangled or not. She had bright red marks around her neck, which looked fairly fresh within the last probably 10, 15 minutes prior to my arrival, as if someone did have their hands or place an object around her neck, preventing her from breathing.
Right. And I just want to make sure your understanding is based on what you've been told. It's not based on your physical observations of these things that you're referring to, correct?
So based off what she told me and based off what I physically observed, I saw that she was strangled, which is why I saw it necessary to take out warrants based off the physical evidence.
Right. What I'm asking about is, to the extent that you're saying that you're able to distinguish all these different types of contacts, what is that?
Can you repeat the last part you cut out?
You're saying that you're able to distinguish between all these different types of contacts, like a strangulation versus a push versus somebody running into a doorknob. What I'm asking is what is the basis for being able to make those distinctions?
Just repetition. You see it day in and day out. It's very common to respond to multiple domestic violence disturbances in Clayton County. So you know what it looks like when someone gets punched, when someone gets pushed, someone gets stabbed, someone gets strangled. You get used to seeing the physical marks.
I'll leave it there. No further questions.
Okay. Well, I do have a question, because sort of along the lines of what you were asking, and I want to ask Officer Reed if I can. I think for me, a lot of times trying to distinguish, we're having a problem with Miss Wallace.
Right, they've taken her.
I'm sorry, you broke up, Miss Freeman.
I was saying they've taken her back to her cell.
She's still down here, but I'm not sure she's compliant. She wouldn't comply with the verbal commands. She was just a little irate with the testimony that was being given. But I have her right here if you all would like to try to speak with her.
Well, Mr. Rogers, what's your position? Let me hear from you first. You're muted.
I was just saying, I think the question is complete. I'm not, I'll leave it there for the moment. But I think the question was, at least from my side, was largely complete.
Okay, I was asking about your client, if she's having, this situation, people have a right to be present in court, but they can give up that right through their actions if they can't comport themselves with what is behavior.
Yeah, it's like she's able to hear it. And that is, as long as she's able to witness it, I think it's anything else we can discuss outside of court.
Right. Ms. Wallace, just so you know, these are allegations that are being made against you. So this is not a situation where it's an ultimate trial to determine whether you're guilty or innocent, but this stage right here is a necessary stage to get to that point to where you will have your day in court. So my question for Officer Reed, I have to follow the statute, and it's always a question in my mind as going from battery to aggravated assault. And when you're talking about strangulation, it's a statute, so that's something that you can charge. But I think with the questions that Mr. Rogers was asking, there's the same question in my mind. How do you distinguish between a battery and an aggravated assault?
Battery is just making physical contact with someone, like a punch that leaves a physical mark. Miss Friddle stated that when her sister put her arms around her neck, she felt as if she was trying to take the breath away from her. Strangulation, big difference from battery.
So let's say I place my hands around your neck where I leave a mark, but you don't lose consciousness. Is that a battery, or is that
you wouldn't have to lose consciousness for it to be strangulation?
And is it your testimony that the alleged victim lost consciousness?
No, she advised that she felt as if Ms. Wallace was trying to take her breath away when she had placed her hands around her neck.
And Judge, I want to interject that I don't believe that a person has to lose consciousness for it to be an aggravated assault.
Yeah.
And I will say, and that's certainly a question for the trier of fact, if based on all of the circumstances if the trier of fact believes that there is an aggravated assault.
Right.
But the officer has testified that the victim felt that she was going to lose her breath. The officer has testified that that he saw visible markings. And I will, in my argument, and I know we aren't there yet, but my argument is that at this stage, for preliminary hearing, there is sufficient testimony for an aggravated assault to be bound over to Superior Court.
I understand. And my question was just based upon what I see. And I have an officer here that has made that determination. And I just was curious. So it wasn't an accusatory thing, but I was just trying to get clarity in my mind. Okay. State is rested. Correct?
Yes, Judge.
Okay. And Mr. Rogers, are you going to call any witnesses?
No, sir, Your Honor, just argument.
Okay. And I'm assuming the state is going to waive opening?
Yes, Judge.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Rogers.
Your Honor, I would start with the fact that, I get also a chance to talk about any kind of knowledge and experience. He's relying on experience, but the experience does not involve actually seeing the events that he's saying he has evidence of happen ever. Like saying he's never seen anybody strangled. So the idea that just because somebody tells you something and you see these marks afterwards means that you're not an expert on strangulation. That's not how it works. He could, if there was some other grounds or some objective grounds to articulate it based on, but you don't know if those people who are telling you they were strangled are telling you the truth about it. So you don't know if those marks are actually the product of strangulation. And that's why I was asking about what kind of knowledge, what do you look for, how do you articulate it? That wasn't offered. The most we have is that there's some sort of contact that appears to have been made based on these red marks. I understand there was discussion about, her being out of breath and things of that nature, but she'd also said that she had other health issues and that it was taking her a while to get to the door. I'm not sure, where she was coming from or whatever, but the mere fact of her being out of breath, there's no testimony that it happened, 30 seconds prior. So the mere fact that she's out of breath when the police officer gets there does not mean that she was strangled. It could have been just a result of physical activity. You know what I'm saying? If she's old enough, then it doesn't take strangulation to get an older person winded. So for all those reasons, John, I would say that most that we have is testimony that supports a battery at this point. And for those reasons, John, I would ask that the charge be reduced to a battery at most and dismissed if possible.
Ms. Freeman?
Judge, in addition to the statements that I made, there is sufficient testimony for this to be bound over as an aggravated assault. Everything in Mr. Rogers' argument is certainly for in Superior Court, but keeping in mind the threshold where we are, the testimony that the victim stated that she was choked, the victim stated that she felt that she was going to lose her breath. The officer saw markings on her neck that were consistent with the choking. All of those things taken as a whole are sufficient to bind this one charge of aggravated assault up to Superior Court.
So I agree that it is sufficient. At this stage, is more likely than not. And the testimony that's been given based upon what the officer was told and what the officer observed is sufficient for the case to be bound over. Now, the reason I asked the question is I don't necessarily agree with it, but I don't get to make the law. I have to follow the law. So I don't agree with it, but at the same time, the testimony and the evidence is sufficient. So this case is going to be bound over to the Superior Court of Clayton County for trial.
Thank you, Judge. And our next hearing, we're going to get the officer on Gray. Okay. The officer to go to work at 4. So we want to go ahead and get him.
Okay, do you want to, while we're waiting on the officer, do you want to deal with the issue where Mr. Rogers was asking for the case to be dismissed?
Would Judge, can Officer Reed be excused?
Yes, Officer Reed, I'm sorry, sir, you can be excused. Thank you
All right,
for
thank you.
being here.
Judge, we're still on YouTube.